What in damnation have you done?
You've destroyed him, and yet I hear the voice of innocence, begging for our forgiveness, asking for our help. You and I. I heard him the moment the High Templar fell, whispering inside my damned skull, his heart beating within my chest. Innocence protects us now, holds fast the door against the murderous tide that rushes to meet us. He wants you to pass through that door, to bring order to the chaos beyond. I don't understand any of this. Moments ago, I was just a soldier obeying his High Templar, then in the nobody. Now, my God lays inside my head, telling me to let you through that door and to make my way to Overseer's Tower, if it still stands. It does? All right. I don't know what's waiting for you out there, but should you survive it, I'll see you at Overseer's Tower.
Life is short. Deal with it.
Yes? Remember, we do this for freedom.
We're glad you made it. No, damn it all, that's just too strange to abide. I'm glad you made it. And innocence tells me I need to keep helping you. So that's what I'm going to do. I know my way around weapons and armor, and all things Templar if you should want for further enlightenment on that subject. As for innocence, I don't know. Sometimes he makes sense, other times he's a shattered god, but he'll heal. I'll make sure of that. Lani's told me a little about Utula and his cult of Kitava. Enough to know what Utula's got planned. Bring about the fall of one god so he can raise up one of his own. And this Kitava, from what fragments I can piece together from innocence, he's not the benevolent kind. Please, find Utula and stop him. I'm not saying this because I want to put innocence back on his divine throne. I'm saying this because Oriath is my home. It's made some mistakes, but it doesn't deserve the fate that Utula has in mind. I'm having a little trouble explaining it myself. I've never been the most devout of men, especially for a Templar, more of a soldier than a believer. But now, innocence himself rests within me. His voice is weak, barely a whisper, yet still he has the power to keep us safe from Kitava's hunger. At least for now. For my part, I'm simply grateful. Grateful that I have a god watching my back, and grateful that he's given me the power to watch others in return. For a long time now, I thought my god's intentions were being twisted by his supposed servants. Did I speak up? No. The pyre would have been my only answer. I did what I was told and drew the lines of morality where I could. Now I understand the truth. It wasn't Innocence's intention being twisted. It was Innocence himself, perverted by the selfish convictions of the men and women who worshipped him. But God answers to the believer, as the believer answers to their God. A sign of purity. Let's see. A staff, bathed in innocent blood. No. Sorry, bathed in the blood of innocence. Yes, Innocence gave a part of his divine self to the thing, and gifted it to the Templar. Now that I recall, I read a tome about it when I was a cadet. Bloody long time ago. I skipped most of the boring pages, so only remember the bit where High Templar Maxarius smote with flame the army of the faithless with one ray of its hallowing light. The book's words, not mine. Outside of my humble flesh, the sign of purity is about all that's left of innocence. Devotion should be honored, I suppose. For centuries now, the Templar have boiled the flesh and skin from the devout and presented the polished remains for public appreciation in the ossuary. Personally, I think it's one of the better ways to remember those who have gone before us. To touch the bones is to remember neither the legend, the legacy, nor the lies. It reminds you that those bones belonged to a man or woman who was just like any other man or woman. I'd be lying if I said my hands were clean of slavery's blood. I was a soldier. I went where Dominus ordered me to go. I sailed with the expedition to Ngamakanui, killed Karui warriors, and rounded up Karui captives like every other bastard in a Templar uniform. So I don't blame Lonnie for wanting to take back her freedom, and I don't blame her for believing Utula's lies either. I certainly swallowed enough of Dominus's falsities to sicken my soul. It's what we do now that matters. I can see that Lonnie's heart is in the right place, and for once in my damned life, so is mine. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't trust her. Yeah, I've got my reasons. Piety kept her work pretty quiet, but her results were brutally clear. The people she took, the people she changed. Slaves mostly, and a few enemies of God. Enemies of bloody Dominus, more like it. I don't go in for black and white definitions of good and evil, but with Piety in her ilk, I make an exception. Whatever's lurking inside Violenta, it ain't good. Not by a long shot. Innocence blesses your journey.
Bannon claims that a god now lives inside his head and talks to him. What's more common, divine possession or insanity? I'll leave you to calculate the odds. Farewell.
Bannon is unexpected. At least, he's not the sort of Templar that I'm used to dealing with. His ideas about innocence almost make sense to me. The way he worships innocence and receives such power in return, it's like his devotion actually brings out the best in his god. But how is that possible? A god is a god. They bless us and they punish us, not the other way around. Yet for Bannon, somehow it's different. The King's Feast is an ancient ritual born of less enlightened times. Long before the Karui followed the way, one tribe would conquer another and a feast would be prepared for the triumphant king. The main dishes of this feast were selected carefully for the sweetness of their nature and the tenderness of their flesh. You see, when the conquered fills the belly of the conqueror, two tribes become one. And that's what's happening out there in Theopolis right now. The tribe of Kitava is feeding upon the tribe of Oriath, and the feast won't end until two tribes become one. Remember what Utula said about Kitava? He is the tormented one, destined to rise up from the darkness, and we, his children, rise with him. It was there all along, in eyes too bright and smiles too wide. Cunning concealed by kindness. Conquest wearing the mask of freedom. I didn't see it because I was looking for something else. Hope. The cult only wanted what it's always wanted. To be born again in their father's image. They are Kitava's children, the first of his tribe. Unless you do something about it, they won't be the last. For freedom.
Let me tell you.
Arohongui, daughter of the moon, was preparing for a feast to celebrate Tsukuhama's return from his war on the first ones of the Ezamites. Tafor, son of the forest, asked each of the birds to sacrifice one of their kind for the feast. He gave these offerings to Arohongui, who cooked them in a great firestone pit. Seeing all of those plump birds cooking made Kitava very hungry, and he offered to watch them, to make sure they didn't burn while Arohongui rested during the heat of the day. Arohongui thanked Kitava for his kindness, but while she slept, Kitava ate the cooking birds, flesh, bones, gizzards and all. Upon waking, Arohongui was furious to find that Kitava had lied to her, for saying that he would watch the birds when he truly intended to eat them all up. When Tsukuhama arrived home in his mighty canoe, Arohongui asked him to punish Kitava for his selfish gluttony. Tsukuhama, our father of war, agreed and pulled the sharpest tooth from his own mouth. He then asked Arohongui and Tafor to hold Kitava fast while he cut Kitava's face with the tooth. 2 slashes that blinded Kitava and formed a bleeding cross upon his face. From that day forth, Kitava would never be able to promise to watch that which he truly intended to consume. To replace the feast of birds that Kitava had greedily consumed, Tsukuhama, our father of war, and Valako, father of storm, went fishing. Although Kitava was blind, he could still cast his line and feel when a fish took his bait. So, Tsukuhama and Valako took him with them on Tsukuhama's mighty canoe. But while they fished, Kitava grew hungry and secretly ate all of their bait of grubs and worms. Disgusted and angry, Tsukuhama and Valako decided to use Kitava as bait instead. Valako used his own jawbone as a hook, impaled Kitava on it, and cast both into the sea. Kitava sank to the bottom of the sea. But instead of the fish eating Kitava, it was Kitava who ate all of the fish that nibbled at him, flesh, scales, guts, and all. When Tsukuhama and Valako hauled a fat-bellied Kitava back up from the sea, they were even more furious and knew that Kitava must be punished one final time. Kohama, our father of war, and Valakor, father of storm, took Kitava to Hinekora, mother of death. They asked her to kill the greedy Kitava, for surely their tribe would starve if Kitava continued to live among them. But Hinekora refused, for death would not teach Kitava the lesson he needed to learn. Instead, Hinekora beat Kitava with a whip woven of her own hair. To Kitava, each strand was a searing lash, and so he wore thousands and thousands of blistering lashes across his back, as Hinekora drove him relentlessly into the darkest corner of the underworld. There she left him to suffer, without water or food, for the rest of eternity. And there Kitava remained, in the darkness of Hinekora's night-clad island, for time beyond measure. There he suffered, waiting for the day that he could return to the world of light, to slake his scorching thirst and satiate his ravening hunger.
Not all slaves believe Dutula's lies. Some I know have managed to steal a ship and are soon to set sail for Namakanui. Hopefully, with these treasures on board, Valakor will bless their voyage and breathe deeply into their sails. No, I'm not going with them. I helped bring this curse down upon Oriath, so I'll help save what little there is left to save. Here, take something, in thanks for your part in preserving the Karui Way. For freedom.
Welcome. Gold without, gold within. Blood comes in many colors, but the gilded always bleed gold.